Hey, what's up guys? Today what we're going to be doing is fixing the fuel lines. Apparently these Cobalts are really bad for the fuel lines rusting out. In front of the left rear tire is where everyone always seems to say they're leaking from. And I decided to change the fuel lines from the 2009 turbo car to this one that we're converting to a turbo car. These ones are rusty and they were a little bit different where the main feed line goes in. So I ended up pulling the fuel lines off the other car today and they broke in half. So I'll show you guys what broke and I'll show you guys how we're gonna fix it. So let's get to work. Alright guys, so here's the fuel lines. This one here is the return line. Now as you can see, this one's all in one piece, but it is also cracked. This one here is the feed line, and you can see up there, this is the part that goes to the engine right here. And then here the line runs back and it's all good, it's all good. And then it gets right here and you can see it's pretty rusty and it's snapped right off. So here's the other half of it. And as you can see from where it joins the fuel tank, it's pretty good, a little bit rusty, but not bad. It cleaned up pretty good. But then right here it's really good. And then right here it gets super rusty again. The issue is the fuel lines run over top of the exhaust system on these cars, and this is all Cobalts, not just the turbo cars, but all of them, because this one, when I took the lines off, this one also broke in half and was all rusty. So what they do is they put this heat shield covering on right here to protect it from the heat, which is great, except it fills up with salt and dirt and grime and rusts the fuel lines out. So I did some reading and found out that it's a big thing with these cars. And I also did some reading that apparently if you can order these fuel lines, I guess right from GM, they're like 800 bucks. So we're definitely not going to be doing that today. I bought some 3/8 fuel line with these kind of ends. I actually bought these just for the ends because they were cheap and they didn't have just the ends. And then I bought, well, unfortunately I was only able to get one, but we'll get started on it today. So I got this kind of joiner. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to join this and then put this fitting on this line and then join that and then join it over there. So we'll be replacing just the pieces of the tubing that we need to. Now this one here being the return line, it's not really high pressure, so I could just cut it out, put a piece of rubber line in there and it'd probably be fine. But I would rather do this. This is good tubing, fittings, it won't leak, and it should be good for another 10 plus years. So let's set up and start making these lines. These lines were $1.80 for these little lines, under $2. And apparently the guy said that these fittings would be more. So it's cheaper to buy the whole line. And then I got a nice piece of 3/8 line. Can save that for something. So what I'll do, I'll use the tubing cutter and I'll cut it as close as possible. I'm sure you guys have used a tubing cutter before, but if not, you just put it in there, tighten it up. We'll get it as close to the end as we can. Okay, there we go. Bust that flare off. And then we're going to have to do the same with this. I'll do that after. And then we got the original piece of fuel line. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back here to where it's still good. Going to remove this super rusty part. Oops. Okay, so there we go. We got that nice end. And this is part of the part we're going to replace, plus we got to cut it off that other line, and then we'll have to take it, kind of bend this one into that same similar kind of shape to what this is. So we'll put that aside for now because we need it for later. And then we're going to put this end on here like so. Perfect. And now we're going to flare it using the flaring tool. Now we take the flaring tool, we set it into the size we're using, which is 3/8, which is not that one, but it is this one. Tighten this up. Let's loosen this a bit Tighten this one. Oh, that's great. So this is stripped. Nice. Okay. That's okay though. So what we'll do, which is kind of what I was going to do anyways, because it holds it better, we're just going to put it inside the vise here and then clamp it. And then we'll tighten this one up so that it holds it in there good. And then you just take this tool, put it on top, and then you tighten. You can see it flaring out there. That should be good. And then you back it off. If everything goes right, you should have yourself a nice flare. And there you go. Put the fitting in there, and there you go. You can see it's perfect. So then that is going to go into this fitting here and get tightened. And then our brand new line piece is going to go in there. And that'll get tightened up nice and tight. And then we'll bend this, and then this is going to join into the other part of the old broken fuel line. We need to do the same thing on this big fuel line. So I have to cut this piece off and then flare this piece. So I'll do that, and then I'll come back when it's all flared up. All right, so I got this piece here flared out. So that turned out really good. And then here is the other piece that we did. And then here is the new piece, which goes in between those two like that. The only issue with it is, not a huge issue really, is that I'm not 100% sure how this one, because it's broken, I don't know exactly how it was. So I could bend this, but I'm also not quite sure how the bends need to be. So what my plan to do is, I want to do the same thing to the return line, then we'll install the lines, the feed and return, just with those ends like that, and then we'll put it in, and then we can also put in these ends, mount them in, and then figure out how much bending we have to do. But because even though the factory did this much bends, it might be possible to just kind of leave it a little bit on the straight side and it'll still fit. So we'll do that, get the fuel lines installed, and then tomorrow I'll have to go to the store and get more of those joiner fittings. And then after that, we can throw once the fuel system is all back in, we can throw the exhaust on, which is here. And like I said before, I think we're gonna get an aftermarket exhaust for it, but just for right now, I mean, once I wanna get an aftermarket exhaust, or we're gonna order one, we can cut this one off, not a big deal. But the exhaust has to go in before the axle goes in because it's so big, it won't fit otherwise. The only thing I gotta do is, I had to cut these bolts, they were seized on there, and I can't get these out. I guess they're pressed in really good. So I'll have to use like the plasma and just blow them out. And then here you can see the old fuel line from this car, how it also broke in half. So it was no better. So yeah, then once we get the fuel lines in and we can hang the exhaust, we can put this axle back in tomorrow, and we'll actually kind of have a Cobalt SS, at least half of it. And then probably we'll get on the body work, get that done, and then it's interior will have to come next probably, and then engine swap, and hopefully we'll get it running. So let's do this other line, and then we'll install them. Now that I have this return line up here, you can see, where is it now? Right here. It is cracked. Now obviously, like, stress them a bunch, yanking them out of the other car, because the axle is in there and all that kind of stuff. This one will be easier to lay them back in because there's no engine. I had to work around the engine on that one. So maybe it wouldn't have cracked, but at the same time, the fact that it cracks so easily, and you can see how it's pretty rusty. Pretty much just this section to this section here. Here is rusty a bit, but I don't think that's that major. This didn't have any kind of covering on it for it to rust. I don't believe it did, but actually this is pretty good. Just like the other one, I cleaned it up. I'll do the same on this one on the wire brush. So what we'll do here, we'll cut it here, flare it, and then we'll cut it probably about here and flare it. All right, so now we're gonna go under the car and put these fuel lines in. So I ended up changing this. So I guess the return line is actually more like a vapor because it goes into this thing, I believe. So I'm not sure if it's actually like a return line that has fuel going through it, because it goes into this, which I'm guessing is like a charcoal canister. I actually took the one off the SS and put it on here. I don't think it's any different or anything, but one of these lines was kind of pulled off where it goes into the filler neck. So I ended up swapping the filler neck and this whole thing, and then obviously the fuel tank, as you can see, has been swapped over. So all that's hooked up and plugged in. And so the fuel lines, if you can see that plastic stuff that's hanging there, they clip into that. So now I have to run these lines, I guess starting at the front, and I have to like clip them all into there. And the brake lines also kind of go in there with it. Now the other thing is I might have bent the lines, so I don't know. I might have to do a little rebending here to get it to line up properly. Well, I'm gonna have to go up top and try to clip it in up top first. You could fix the damage in the car without taking the lines right out, but it might be a real pain. I gotta climb. I gotta climb in there. Crouch down in here. If you see right there, right here, that's where the lines have to go into. And then one line clips in here. I don't remember which was left, what was on the left and what was on the right. That might be an issue. Let me see what I can figure out. All right, after farting around with it a little bit, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. The pressure one on this side and the return or whatever it is on this side. And then like I said, up here, there should be this, but it should hold both lines. And I'll take that off the other car when I can get at it. So now let's go back under the car and see if we can line them up under there. So that looks good, like they line up. So then that would mean the next spot would be here. So this goes like this, and this brake line clips in, ow, and this brake line clips in, and then this should clip back together like that. Okay, so that looks good. If you guys couldn't see that, I'll show you. That's how it clips in. So there's the brake lines on one side, fuel lines on the other, and then same thing here. And then it goes through this big giant thing here that holds it, and then comes out on this side. So let me get these clipped in, and then we'll come back and I'll show you everything together. All right, guys. So I got it all mounted back where it goes. So we turn the light around so you can see. So I'm now making a shadow. Okay, so there it goes into this plastic thing. I got one clip that doesn't want to clip. I got to look at it again. Maybe it's because the tube's a little bent. So then you'll see the two lines come to here. One there, kind of under this. I had to bend this out of the way, and then it clips in here again. So pretty much what we're going to do, we're going to take this line, new line, and we're going to put it there, and we'll bend it as need be. It comes over here, turns, and then the main one goes into this line here, and the other one clips into this box. So this is the main line here. It goes up here and somehow into this fitting, and then it goes like right there, pretty much like that. So then we got to go from there, we just got to go to there. So we'll have to bend it as we need it, and then it'll be good. So that's all I'm going to be able to do tonight, because I have to get those fittings. So meet you back here tomorrow, and we'll finish these fuel lines up. Hey, what's up, guys? So it's the next day. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night because all I could hear was you guys telling me I should be double flaring these lines and not single flaring these lines. So I heard you, and I'm gonna redo them now. For those that you don't know, let me show you quick. This is a single flare, and this is a double flare. And
this is a knife.
now you can kind of see there's like it's rolled over, and this one it's not. So basically, these lines here are double flared already, and I have the tool to do it, but I guess I wasn't really thinking. I'm pretty sure when I've made fuel lines in the past, I've just done a single flare, but then again, this is also higher pressure. So some places on the internet say single flare is good. Other places say they aren't good and they'll leak. So you know what? I don't want to take the chance of having any leaks. So we're gonna redo them. So I will redo this one, and I'll show you guys how to redo it and how to double flare it properly. And then after that, I will pull the fuel lines out again and reflare them all.
Double flare is basically the same as a single flare. You still use this same tool. The only difference is you use this piece. So this thing goes in first, like that, and you flare it, and it kind of bubbles it out, and then you take this out, and then you just flare it like normally. And you know, the funny thing is, I even had this out yesterday sitting here, and then I don't know, it didn't dawn on me that I should be double flaring it, but that's what we're gonna do.
All right, guys, so I'm back to where we were last night. We got the lines in, mounted up at the front and everything. And then, so there they are, right there, the new fittings on. And I still haven't got those junctions. I ordered them from a place, and I gotta go pick them up in an hour. So, and then here's the other ones right there. So this longer one, or whatever, no, this one here is for the return line or whatever it is, and then this one here is the feed line, main feed line, and then on that side the main feed line is the slightly shorter one. Now we need to figure out these lines are new lines, and what I got here is a tubing bender. I already kind of stuck it up there, and I see that I need to bend it a little bit. So I'm probably not going to bend it exactly like it was from the factory, but just so that it works, basically. So I'm just going to put it in there and give her a little tweak like that to start with, just a little bend. And then I'm going to kind of test fit it up there and see where we need to go from there. I bent it a little bit up like that, and you can see there's like a connector here where it kind of clamps into. And then here it's pointing out, so I need to make another bend kind of like right there to get it to go to where the lines are. Alright, so I got the lines made. Here they are, bent up. You can see them. This one I actually ended up having to shorten because it was a little too long. That was no big deal. And I went and got the fittings. So there's the fittings. So now we're going to put the fittings onto the lines, tighten them, at least the ones we can, because one's already on the line on there. Tighten them up out here so they're good and tight, and then put them on the car. All right, we'll go under the car and I'll show you how it turned out. Okay, so there's the lines. And then they go over here, and the one attaches right here for the main fuel line. And then the other one is this one right here, and it goes to this canister. And then if we follow along, it's joined in right there, and there, and then this shield will get bent up over top to cover all this up. But I got all the factory clips back in and everything, so it's tied in there good. So I'm just gonna bend this this back up, and that'll be done. All right, guys, so that's it for fixing the fuel lines. So if that's why you came, you can stop watching now, or you can keep watching. These 3 bolt holes here for the exhaust, I can't get them to come out. I don't know if they're welded in there, kind of, or they're just that seized in. But we're gonna use the plasma, hopefully, And we're just gonna blow holes through it so that we can put bolts back in. Okay, so that didn't quite make a hole, but it did. Let's see if, I mean, I can go more, but let's see if maybe now it'll come out. Oh yeah, there we go. So it's basically just like a wheel stud, but I banged on him with the hammer and I could not get him to go. So this is a good way. Maybe I'm just loosening it up with the heat, but we'll do the other ones. Those came out pretty good. All three of them didn't do any damage. And now I can just put bolts in there. Or I could get some studs like that. But at least now I can put it on and I don't have to worry about not being able to bolt it up. And as far as this plasma cutter goes, this is a cheap plasma cutter I bought off Amazon. Works great. Definitely recommend it, that's for sure. Costs like $300 versus like $1,500 for a fancy one. All right, so I hung the exhaust. Obviously super easy, just a few clamps. And so that's hanging on there. And now it's time to put the axle in. So that'll be pretty easy. You guys can watch me struggle to get it on the jack and then jack it up. And then there's only 8 bolts and it'll be bolted back in. All I should have to do is lift this side and then put it on the jack. Okay, it's on there. Now we just gotta line up the bolts. There's one bolt right there, and then there's one on that side and one on that side. We'll go put the other 3 in, and then we can tighten them up. Okay, so then we just have to tighten up the shock, that, and then the other side shock, and the brake lines, and then the emergency brake cables, and the rear end, or axle is back in. All right, guys, so there it is. So pretty much the back half of the car is now a Cobalt SS. We got the trunk, back, the whole axle assembly, fuel tank, exhaust. So that's pretty good. So I would call that a third done. I would call the second third the interior, and the third the engine. So next we're gonna work on the rockers, get those finished, and then I guess once the rockers are done, then we'll start on the interior, get the interior in, and then the last thing we'll do is put the engine in. So stay tuned if you guys like what you're watching. Like always, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, click the notification bell so that you get all the videos that we put out, and we'll check you later.
All right, you win. I see you've played knifey spoony before.